What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're gonna be going over how to install these halos and demon eyes into the BMW E46 headlights. This video is gonna be going over the projector style headlights. I don't know if there's any difference between these and the halogen headlights. So if you have halogen headlights, don't go off of this video. If you have projector style headlights, then this will be a good tutorial on how to do this. I'm pre-warning you guys that this video is a little long, as you probably saw. I go into a lot of detail as far as like how to remove the headlights from the car and then tearing them apart and how I set up the LEDs and everything like that. So there's a lot of information. That's why it's so long, but it'll be a good guide for you guys if you're planning on doing this to your own vehicle. So nothing else to say. Let's get to it. All right, so the first thing you're going to do in order to start this whole halo install is going to be to get your headlights out of the car. BMW made that relatively easy in my opinion. I've dealt with a lot of other cars where it's actually crazy. You have to take the front bumper off or take this, that, or everything off in order to get it off. These are actually pretty simple as far as I'm concerned. This trim piece across the bottom is going to come off. It literally just has a couple pop tabs in the corners that you're going to pop loose. There's two in the corners, and then there's two here across the bottom as well that are popped into things. They pop in, this one right here pops into the fender here at the end. Mine's a little messed up and isn't really mounted all that well because my front end's messed up, but they should just pop out relatively easily, just like mine did. Second step is going to be to get this corner light pulled out. In order to do that, here in this hole through the fender, there is a Phillips screw. You're just going to loosen that Phillips screw, and then you can take the Phillips screwdriver that you used and push in through here from the back and pop this light out. This light is actually slotted into the headlight here, so don't try to pull it this way. You have to push it towards the front of the car in order to take it out. Once you get this corner light out, there's going to be an 8mm here, an 8mm here. There's another 8mm down there, and then there's one right here. Those are holding the bottom of the headlight in. You're going to take all those 8mm screws out and then undo all your plug connections and pull your headlight out of the front of the car. So we're going to get this out and I'll show you everything a little bit better once it's out of the car. Alright, so like I said, pretty straightforward. This is your other screw tab, so you can kind of see where it is in relation to the headlight when it's mounted in the car. And you actually see this is where the screw is at, and then that's the other screw there. When you're getting these plug connections off, sometimes the tabs over time have gotten a little bit too flexible, and they actually, when you press in on them, don't pick up off of the locking tabs on the thing, on the connector part of it, or on the bulb in this case. You might have to put a pick in from the backside or a screwdriver or something like that and pop that locking tab up a little bit more. Just happens on older cars as the plastic gets a little soft with age. So now that we got this headlight out, we're gonna go get started on taking it apart and doing our Angel Eye retrofit. Just with the other side, it's the exact same as the passenger side that I've taken apart. Same process to take this out apart. So let's go get started with putting these halos in. All right, so one of the first things you're going to want to do after you got your headlight out of your car before trying to take anything else apart is get this seal off around the outside edge. It's really simple to take off. There's a bunch of tabs here along the top of it that are actually holding it on. They have little clips on them, and if you just press them away from the headlight, they'll actually pop them all out of the little grooves that they're sitting in. If you can see right here, they have like these little lip on them. They're little locking tabs. You just press them out like this away from the headlight, and they will pop right off. Now once you've got this part off, you're going to work on taking your lens off. The lens is actually really simple on this car. There's just tabs here. There's 3 across the top and 3 across the bottom that you pry up on. You actually don't even have to use a screwdriver. I got the screwdrivers out to do it, but you don't need them. You can just pick up on them with your fingers. And then you're going to pop them up like this. The screwdriver will come in a little handy because it's kind of hard to get in here. You're going to want to pry in here to pry the lens away from the headlight. And then you're going to pop the top ones and the bottom ones, and you are going to be able to push your lens away from your headlight all the way around. You might need to do a little bit of prying once it pops away. It'll pop away a little bit initially, but then you're probably going to have to pop it. There's another one here on the inside edge as well. You're going to want to pop all of your tabs, and then it'll pop away a little bit initially, and then you're just going to use the screwdriver to kind of walk it the rest of the way off. So. Just that simple. So once you get the lens off, the next process is going to be to get this trim ring off. This is actually like a beauty ring that kind of covers up the ugliness inside the headlight. It just pops into a bunch of tabs here in the corner. There's nothing that you have to pry off. You just pull it off of the headlight. So you're just going to push it out, push it out, and push it out. And then that'll come out as well. Now we're on the back of the headlight. You're going to want to take your cover off for your HID bulb. It just has a tab on the top of it that lifts up. You're going to pinch it right here with your thumb, and it's going to disengage that tab, and then it tips away from the headlight, and it has these two little feet that it sits in the bottom of the headlight. So you're going to take this, you're going to set this off to the side. I recommend, just because they're expensive, to avoid damaging them, that you remove your HID headlight bulb and set it aside as well while you're doing this. It's not necessary to do that. It's not in the way or anything like that. And I just do it to prevent damage because good bulbs are expensive. So you can get cheap bulbs, but they don't work as good. They don't last as long. So make sure that you take your bulb out and set it aside. And to take that out, this ring around the outside is just going to like eighth turn to the left, and then it'll disengage and you'll be able to pull the bulb out with the locking ring. So we're going to set that off to the side, far away from everything so that it doesn't get damaged. The next thing is going to be taking your high beam bulb out. There's a locking ring around the outside edge here that there's two tabs on. That's also like an eighth turn loosening in order to get it off. It's usually pretty difficult to get loose. This one's actually pretty easy. Sometimes they can get stuck just because they've been in there for a very long time. Just be patient with it. Don't break the tabs off of it, because once you break tabs off of it, it makes it pretty hard to get off, and you'll be having to replace that locking ring. So we're going to set this off to the side as well. Now that you've got everything apart, we're going to actually start getting into what we've got to take apart inside the headlight in order to get the whole assembly out. We're actually going to take the whole lens, low beam lens and high beam reflector assembly out of the headlight. So let me show you what you got to take apart in order to get that out. All right, so we're going to go inside the headlight to start off taking things apart. This plug connection right here, little like turquoise green connector, is for your high beam flip over switch. You're going to pull this plug connection out of the connector in there and get it out of your way. The next process step is going to be on the front of the headlight. There's a tab right here in the corner that you're going to pry out with a flat blade screwdriver. It actually disengages this is actually attaching the headlight to this adjuster here. So it's easier to do with two hands, but you're going to want to pry this little like clear plastic colored tab away and push the reflector that way a little bit, and it'll actually disengage it from that tab. Once you get that popped off, inside the back of the headlight, there's another connection right there on this stepper motor. What I did is pop this outside connection off first, and then went inside of there because I had enough play in it and was able to pry up on that arm. This isn't really the proper way to do it. You're actually supposed to push it off of there because it kind of like snap locks onto there. In past experience, I've actually broken that clip on that bucket by trying to push it off of there. So in lieu of breaking that clip and then not being able to get it, because it's so close to the top of that clip, I actually just pry up on the arm a little bit and pry it up out of that. And then you're going to pull the bucket out from underneath that once you get that pried up. And then the final step, once you get those two done, is up here in the top, up here, there's another ball and socket attachment for this adjustment leg right here for your height adjustment on your bucket. What I do is I take a long flat blade screwdriver and put it in that bucket, or on the back side of that bucket. I hold the headlight in between my legs and hammer with my palm of my hand into that area there, and it pops it off of that ball. I'll show you that process while I'm doing it. I just can't do it while holding the camera. So I'm going to get these other two popped off, and then I'll show you how I get that final clip unclipped. All right, so once you get your bucket out, I recommend getting a soft cloth or towel or whatever you've got to set it down on, just so you don't risk scratching your lens on your projector or any part of this chrome. This chrome that's in these buckets of these headlights can sometimes, just due to age and a lot of exposure to heat from the bulbs, be very, very sensitive, and literally even touching it sometimes on the soft cloth will cause the chrome itself to flake off and peel away. So just to prevent yourself from having any issues, either make sure your workbench is really clean or set it on something soft before you start doing this. I just wanted to show you guys though what you're dealing with before, with this removed when you're trying to get this bucket out of the headlight. So this is the clip, or the little socket here that clips onto this socket on the outside edge of the headlight. As you can see, it's just a little hole that it sits inside of, and that is attached to the adjuster for left and right adjustment for the headlight. And then this top one here is just like a little clip that sits on this ball up here in the top of the headlight, and that's for your like base vertical aim adjustment. And then this clip down here at the bottom that kind of looks like a C is actually what attaches to your stepper motor that adjusts your headlights based on input from the car itself. So this one sets your base adjustment, and then this one adjusts it depending on like weight in the back of the car and stuff like that. You want to be careful with this arm and not bend it too crazy, because you can actually break the stepper motor. I have some experience doing it, so I know how far you can and can't bend it. Just bend it just enough to get it up out of this and pull the reflector off of it, because bending it any more than that will break the motor. So I'm going to get into explaining how to take all of this apart so we can start getting our halos mounted up, and then after we get the halos mounted up, I'll show you guys how I mount the Demon Eye. All right, so now we're getting into tearing the headlight bucket apart. You don't have to do this. I'm doing this mostly because it makes my life easier to do the Demon Eyes. If you're just doing the halos, you don't have to do this part. You can actually mount the halos from the front without taking this off. If you want to take it off, it makes your life easier mounting the halos. In order to get this projector off, there are 3 T25 screws around the outside edge. I'll actually show you a little bit closer here. It'd be this one top left, and then the 2 bottom ones here holding this projector into the back of the lens. And then inside here, and it's kind of hard to show you, but if you look in through the sides here on either side, there is 2 tabs on this shroud, this projector shroud here, holding the projector shroud to the body of the projector. I'll actually show you once I get it out of there what they look like, so you know what to look for when you're looking through there. But we're going to get these T25s taken off and get those 2 clips popped off, and we'll get this projector and this shroud out, and then we'll just have this bucket to work with. All right, so before we get started into doing the halo mounting on the headlight bucket, I wanted to show you guys those tabs that I was talking about. So this tab right here and this tab right here lock into this channel and this channel on either side. They actually lock over this part right here on either side of the projector. So after you unscrew the projector from the back, you're going to want to pop these 2 tabs off, because this won't fit through the headlight. It actually has to come off the front. And when once you take this off, be very careful with this, because like I said, some of this chrome stuff here, just due to the age of the vehicle, can be a little bit soft and very, very easy to wipe off. If I tried right now, I guarantee you that I could rub my finger on this chrome hard enough and it would take it right off, just because it's been in a hot headlight for 17 years in my vehicle's case. It's very, very soft and brittle. So just be careful with this when you're dealing with it. And once you get it off, set it off to the side so that you don't hit it with anything. Also set your projector off to the side for now, because you don't want to scratch up your lens or mess up any part of this. So we're going to set this off to the side as well. Now that we've got this headlight bucket here, I'm going to start mounting up your halos. I wanted to show you guys this as well. In the corners of the halo, up here and here, there's 2 in the corner, and then there's 1 right here at the bottom as well. There's little pinholes in there, and that's actually where your mounting wire is going to go through. This mounting wire here is actually going to go through those pinholes and then through the holes that you drill in this in order to mount the halos in place. We're going to drill very, very small holes. They don't have to be much bigger than the thickness of this wire, so whatever size drill bit you decide you want to use, just it doesn't have to be much bigger than this wire. You're going to drill your holes, you're going to line your halo up like this, and then you're going to drill your holes in the corner where you think they need to be. It doesn't need to be dead on where the hole is in the halo. It just needs to be in the general area so that when you fish your wire through a halo, you can fish it through the hole and then you're able to pull everything tight. I'm going to get this mounted up here. I'm also going to take this black trim piece off of this so I can get to this top left-hand corner. That black trim piece is really easy to take off. On the back here, there is a tab here and a tab here at the bottom. There's just little like expanding clips here. If you squeeze those two clips with your needle nose pliers, it'll pop those clips through and then you can just slide this trim piece off. So we're going to get this trim piece off and then I'm going to mock up and start drilling my holes for my halo, and we're going to get everything mounted up with the wire. All right, so we got this first ring mounted up. Once you get your halo put in place, mocked up, figure out where you want to drill your holes at. Drill one here, here, and here to put all those pieces through. Make sure you put your projector back in before you finalize putting these strings on, or the ties on. The halo will not fit through that from either side. You actually have to put it in first and put the halo on over top of it because the projector kind of sits behind it. So all you do is you fish your wiring through the holes that you've drilled and then pull your pieces tight and then twist them like you would twist like a tie on like a bread bag. Is all you're going to do is twist them together like that, and then they hold the projector in place. The projector is going to have a little bit of movement to it. Doing it this way, there's not really any way to get this to where it doesn't move, but it's a little enough movement that you're never going to notice it. You're not going to see it, you know, moving. It's not going to move inside the car unless the car is moving, and then it's not going to be enough to matter anyways. If you wanted to go another route, you can epoxy these halos to this ring to the headlight bucket if you wanted to, but these tabs are on here for this reason. It's worked for a lot of other people in the past. That's why these are designed this way. So I'm doing it that way. You do what you want to do. I'm just showing you this way. So we're going to get this inside light mounted up, and then I'm going to get to mounting up my demon eye on my projector, and I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, so we got both halos mounted up. Again, repeat the same process on this side. Just mock your ring up in the place that it should be in. You want to try to get this piece here, when you're looking straight at the light, level with the top of the plastic here. Just that keeps it from interfering with any of the trim inside the headlight and anything like that. Same with this one. You're going to try to get it as close to being as level with the top of this as possible so it doesn't interfere with anything in the bottom of the headlight. Then drill your holes, run your wiring through, pull it tight and twist it up to where your halo doesn't move. This one I did a little bit better job than the first one, getting it tight in there and doesn't move at all actually. So we're going to move on to mounting up our demon eye. The only place that I've found through trial and error of mounting this demon eye in this headlight is in this opening here in the top of this projector facing downwards. Actually when you put this projector in, there's reflective material down here in the bottom of this headlight that demon eye LED will be hitting when you have it mounted in place, and it reflects the light back up into this part of this housing here where these holes are around the side, and then allows it to escape out through the lens. It gives it a good look. I'm happy with it, so I'm gonna get this mocked up in this space here just to kind of show you guys how I mount it in place. All right, so this is how I go about mounting this demon eye. Like I said, it's going to face straight down. There's reflective plastic or chrome inside of the bottom half of this headlight housing here where this demon eye is facing to. And then it will reflect the light back up and kind of fill this whole area in here behind this projector lens with the color that you have this set to, and then it filters through the projector. I know this looks a little rigged up. There isn't really, from what I've tried a bunch of different ways. There isn't really any other way to get this in here that doesn't block this flap from moving, because obviously you can't mount it in from any of the sides or the bottom or anything like that. There's no room inside the lens itself to mount it anywhere out here towards the outside edges and face back that direction. There's no like hard mounting surfaces. It'd be way too far away from it to project the light in there properly or on the wrong angle. You can mount it down here or on the bottom someplace because there's space to mount it here in the bottom of the bucket, but then it interferes with this flap moving. And then any other place that you mount it up here in the top, to get it out far enough to get the light into this bucket for this projector, it actually shows up in the light projected from the headlight bulb itself when it's projected out on the ground. So this is the way that I found that works the best. Obviously, it still moves a little bit. It's not going to cause any issue. You're not going to see it or anything like that. And it moves a little bit now, but once you actually get it mounted through the headlight, this wiring here is somewhat tight. It's not tight enough that it's going to cause an issue, but it sits tight against the top of the headlight bucket, and it actually keeps this from walking around. It actually kind of like presses it down into place and keeps it from walking around. So it works good. I've done it before. It doesn't have any problems, so I'm going to roll with it again. We're going to get this projector mounted back in the headlight the right way. I do want to tell you guys that when you're mounting up the projector, there are two little rubber spacers that go in there. They go in the top left and bottom right corner where the screws go at. Just make sure when you're pulling everything apart that you don't lose those somewhere on the floor when you're working. We're going to put the spacers back, put our projector back in, make sure that our trim ring is snapped back into our projector, and then we're going to wipe everything off, get fingerprints off of all this chrome. Like I've said before, be very careful when you're wiping on this chrome because it's very, very sensitive to getting brushed off. So just use a soft cloth and be gentle with it when you're wiping it off. And then we're going to wipe any fingerprints or any dirt off of our LED rings. And then we'll get our headlight bucket mounted back inside of our headlight. And I'll show you guys how to do that. All right, one thing I do want to tell you guys about before you start putting your headlight bucket back into your headlight, this is actually the other headlight that I've already done, is to make sure that you figure out where you're going to route your wiring at. So I had to test fit these a couple times in the past to try to figure out where to put the wiring through. There's a lot of stuff inside the headlight in here that can get in your way. You can run them through the back of the cap here. I've done that in the past, but it's hard. You have to run it on one side because the outside edge of it gets too close to the stuff that's in the engine bay here, and it makes it difficult to get this cap off. And in the past, I've ran them through the cap, and then it makes it a pain in order to change this light bulb. So this time around, I tried to look for another way to route them, and I actually found that in this corner here, you can drill a hole and run the wiring through. And then on this side, once the headlight's in place, there's a lot of space in here along the sides of the radiator where you can run this wire through as well. The wires come originally with these grommets on them. You can use these grommets if you want to, but as you can see, that's a very, very large hole that you're having to drill. And then you're gonna have to drill one for each wire that you run through. And in my case, I'm running 3 wires through. So to keep from having to drill 3 holes in my headlight, trying to cut it down to a minimum of how many holes I have to drill, and I also don't want to drill giant holes like this. I actually got these what they call cable glands, and I was able to de-pin these connectors and run the wiring through the cable gland. I ran the demon eye and the outside projector through this cable gland here, and then I ran the inside angel eye through the this cable gland here. This is a 9mm cable gland, and this is a 7mm cable gland. I'll put a link in the description for these, the place that I got these from. They're not really expensive. A set of them with like 60 pieces in it, I think, was $15. They just keep everything weather tight. You drill a hole through the headlight, it screws in from the inside. You have to do it before you put everything back together. I actually show you what they look like. This is what they look like out of the headlight. And there you have a washer that goes on this side of it between this and the headlight. And then there's a nut that goes on the inside that screws onto this, and you tighten that nut down and it squeezes everything against there. And this O-ring here seals this piece to the headlight housing. on both of them and keeps any water or moisture from getting inside. And then in the middle here, where the wiring passes through, there is a like a cone structure underneath this. Then once you get your wiring passed through, you tighten down this outside ring here, and it squeezes there's a little rubber O-ring inside here. It squeezes that rubber O-ring down on the wiring and provides a watertight seal as well. So these connections going through the headlight are watertight, and you'll have no issues with water getting in. Just make sure that you do these before you put your headlight bucket back in, because you don't want to be trying to drill through the headlight and put the nuts on the ends of these cable glands with that bucket, and it's difficult. So I'm going to get that done, and we're going to get the headlight bucket put back in, and I'll show you guys how to reattach that once we get it back in. All right, so when you're going back through, you just want to make sure that you guide your wiring, your added wiring back through your cable glands that you've installed. Make sure that you get your rubber boot here for this inside reflector housing pulled through. Once you get everything put back into place, you're going to want to bend up that arm for the headlight adjustment motor. Just up slightly, push the reflector housing underneath it, then let it fall back down. Work it to get it into place. And then the outside one, you're going to pry off to the side here. You're going to pry out towards the outside of the headlight and pop it back into place. And then once you get those two in place, the top one that's a ball and socket, you can just set the headlight down facing this direction on your bench and push down in this general area right here with like your index fingers or your thumbs, and you'll hear that ball and socket snap back together. I did want to show you guys also with these, you're going to have to depin these connectors in order to push them through this cable gland style here. In order to depin these connectors in this side where you can actually see the pins, you're going to take something like a pick, something that's very small like this. There's a little locking tab on the side of each one of those pins that you need to push down while pushing up on the connector, pushing the connector up that direction with your fingers like this. You're going to push those tabs in, and you'll hear it click for each pin. And once it clicks for all 4 pins, you'll be able to push this white connector off so that you can feed the wiring itself through these cable glands. You're gonna have to do it to all 3 of them. And then in my case, I actually pulled that little rubber grommet that was already on there off because I'm not using it, and discarded it. So now that we've got everything together with this, the rest of it is just a reverse of removal. You're going to pop your trim piece here in the front back in. It sits up here in the corner here. There's a little tab here in the corner. There's a locking tab here and another slot over here that little black trim piece goes in. You put that back in, and then you put your lens back on and just make sure that it's locked underneath all of these tabs. We're going to get everything put back together, and then I'm going to get everything put back in the car, and I'm going to show you guys how to wire this all up so that it all works properly. All right, so as you guys can see, I finally got the headlights all finished up, mounted in the car. I just wanted to go over the wiring. I didn't film any of the wiring process because it was very long and tedious. I was very, like, just meticulous for me to getting this all wired, wire loomed up, everything like that. It took a very long time. It wouldn't be very good video for you guys. So I'm just going to show you guys the finished product. So I ran the wires from the driver's side and passenger side headlight into that spare cubby over there on the passenger side firewall area. Most of you guys are going to have a blank space over there. Some of the cars, the ABS units mounted over there. You can still mount all the stuff in here with the ABS unit in there because the ABS unit kind of sits in the middle of that area, and I have all the stuff mounted to the walls in there. So you could still use that area if you have an ABS pump over there. Some of the cars do, some of the cars don't. It just depends on like E or cutoff and stuff like that. So I ran all the wiring underneath the cowling here. It's in wire loom underneath here, so it's protected from getting crushed or pinched or cut or anything like that. As you can see, this is a little like laying on top of things. It's actually not quite long enough to reach in there properly. I'm gonna end up buying some extensions for this style wiring, and I'll actually link those down below so that you guys know if you were doing the same thing, you know, what parts I used. But I'm gonna get some extensions so that I can run this down across here, along like up underneath this edge here, and then down over here and follow this one right here. So I ran all this wiring into this area. I mounted my Bluetooth color controller to the firewall here. I mounted the 3 resistor boxes for the driver's side headlight or sorry, this is for the passenger side headlight, to the firewall here. The ones for the driver's side headlight, like I said, are not quite long enough to reach. So they're actually just kind of laying in here right now. Once I get those extensions for everything, I'm going to actually run them down a little bit further and mount them down here to the inside of the cubby here. I also wanted to show you, I was able to, there's a ground leg here that I was able to use for ground for everything. All of those resistor boxes, as well as the controller, all have ground wires on them. They're all black, and they all need to be grounded to something in order for everything to work. I also needed power, so in lieu of going through the firewall to get anything, I actually came over here to my electronics box, and I used a T-tap. I know these are not the most desirable thing, but it works. This connector right here, right next to this fuse box, the red and white wire is actually key on power. It's key on power, and then it stays on for about 10 seconds after you shut the key off, and then it loses power as well. So it works well because the lights stay on while the car's running, and then they stay on for 10 seconds after you get out of the car. So it creates a little, like, you know, pathway lighting or whatever you want to call it when you're getting out of the car to walk away from it. But it works for key on power as well. So I ran a wire out through this box, through this grommet here, to make sure this box was still weather tight, and then it runs through this plastic partition here, and then it follows behind the wiring for the fuel injector, or for the ignition coils and the battery cable through this plastic duct along the back here, and then it runs through here. I cut a little notch out of the plastic underneath here, and then ran it into my power over here. And I wanted to show you guys how I did this. This is my ground cable from my ground connection here. Ignore my fancy little ground connection. This is actually all I had at the time. It works. It's for stereo wiring, but it you know, it's a little excessive, but it works. This is actually like a distribution block from the local hardware store. It's technically meant for house wiring, but it still works for the application that we're dealing with. So I have my two ground legs coming from my ground leg here around over to here on either side of this. And then this ground right here has all of the wires. This is one side headlight, and this is the other side headlight for all the resistance boxes. And then this is my ground for my Bluetooth controller, and then this is the power for the Bluetooth controller as well. This box is just a pass-through, so obviously I'm able to bring the wiring over here, put it in here, and then pass through out to this box. I like this because I can take things apart easily. I don't have to cut wiring. I don't have to pull connections apart and risk damaging them or whatever. I can just unscrew it, pull it off. And it also gives me the opportunity to have expansion in the future if I ever decide to add anything else power and ground related. This is a pass-through area for all of that. So I like this idea. You guys can go with that. If you don't want to go with that, you can actually ground all of these wires straight to this ground point right here in this storage compartment, and then just run your power wire from the other side directly to your Bluetooth controller. This is just how I chose to do it, but you can do it just straight wired. Other than that, everything works. I'm happy with the results. If you guys have any questions about anything that was done here, please comment down below, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you guys have. I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like on the video. I would also really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all later.